This one. I'm gonna label my artboards too. Working space. More working space. Artboard 3, black, white, twirl. Ah! How you spell that? Color. Black, white. Word mark. So label your artboards for sure. Black, white, combo, color, combo, 9. I can't rename this. Name. Business card front. Business card back. Okay. So everything is labeled now. So if you go to export, what's going to happen is these names that you've given to your artboards, that'll be the file name for whatever you've exported. Does that make sense? So if you export the contents of an artboard, it will default to that file, the default to the artboard name for the file name. So you've just saved yourself having to like type in the artboard or the file name when you save it. So, all right, back to our working space. I don't know, what are we going to call this? We should do, let's do a letter mark, and we'll do an acronym, and it'll just be TSS, Taco Sprinklers Skateboards, or STS, TSS. I don't know, TSS is fine. All right, so we're going to go off of TSS, Taco Sprinklers Skateboards. I'm just going to put a type object down, Taco Sprinklers Skateboards. I don't really care what type this is in at the moment. I'm just going to make it bigger. And then you're going to want to bring out your character tab or window and get a look at it. Show options. There we go. We want all our options available here. At this point, what you can do is, oops, not what I wanted. You can kind of look at some of the type that we have installed locally to get a sense of what it's going to look like. I actually kind of like that. That's not terrible. That's really not that bad, actually. All right, so I kind of like that. Oops, come here. So I'm going to download that one to activate it. Click the icon to activate your font menu. What? Just apply the font. Sorry, they've like changed some things. All right, so I like that one. So I'm going to pull another one down. I'm going to grab my character window. And really right now you kind of want to play around and see what you have that might look interesting. Oh, that one's kind of cool too. So that's a variation. Whoa. Oh, I got it. Huh, that's kind of cool. So there's a couple different variations that we can play with just within that type family. I like that as well. They're all kind of fun. All right, let's pick a different font family. That was a little crazy. That one works, right? Yeah. And really, I mean, the only tip I have for this, we could do emojis. The only tip that I have for when you're figuring this out is just go with how it feels. Like, you know, what's the feeling? Actually, that's kind of nice too. What's the feeling that you want for this logo or this brand, right? That's it. Taco Sprinkler Skateboards. This is, okay, this feels like youth. This feels like summer. This feels like California. This feels like fun. This feels like no responsibility. You see where I'm going with that? Like, I'm just thinking of the things that it feels like to me, and that will help me to sort of zero in on a font that works for it. It's going to be different for you, right? You're going to want to find a font type that says that to you, that says those things to you, okay? So this says kind of fun to me because it's all bubbly and goofy looking, right? What are the variations that we have? None. We just have the one. All right, so we can work with that. I'm going to copy it again. And I'm just doing a few here so that I get a sense of what my options are, and then I'll kind of break down and pick one. Oh, that's terrible. It helps that we have this preview here. I'm kind of just looking at that. Oof. So some of the issues when you use like fonts that are overly stylized, like this one, is that, let's make it a little bigger here. It's going to be really, 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 really obvious that you're using that font. It's like the movie Avatar. You guys know the movie Avatar, right? So in Avatar movie, the font that they used for the logo is Papyrus. 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 It's Papyrus. They did nothing else to it. They literally, Papyrus. Straight up vanilla Papyrus. And I'm, you know, either they saved a shit ton of money doing that, or they overspent by thousands and thousands of dollars doing that. Because the design company was probably just like, yeah, Papyrus. And James Cameron was like, yeah, that's great, I'm going to use it for everything. Terminator 2, Papyrus. Right? I mean, it's terrible. It's so, like, even to the point where they used it in the subtitles in the movie. It's just like, no, it's not. That's like using Comic Sans. I mean, just use Comic Sans, because then you can be like, I'm being ironic. Right? No, it's bad. So really avoid, as much as possible, overly stylized things. Now, some of these we can change quite a bit. We should do that. It's like an Irish band that eats tacos and sprinklers and stuff. Anyway, that looks very Irish to me. You know, some of these we can really change. Oh, it's not terrible. Some of these are just boring. Like this is a very clean. Oops. This one's a very clean minimalist. This is actually SF Pro is the system font for OS 10 or Mac OS. It's not OS 10 anymore. Mac OS, like iOS, right? Mac OS, tvOS, Sign Painter. Kind of leaning towards these handwritten fonts a little bit. Taco Sprinkler Skateboards. This is like the pirate font. Does it say sprinkles? No, it says sprinklers. Sprinklers. Should it say sprinkles? Is that what you're saying? Maybe. Yeah, that one's not terrible. I kind of like that. All right, we'll do one more. Now we're kind of getting crazy. So if you don't find what you want with what you have installed, there's a couple different places you can look. You can go check out the Typekit. Avatar. You can do Typekit. Only do this if you have your own Creative Cloud account. Don't do this if you're using the outside machines for Illustrator, because those are not connected to Creative Cloud. But this is a place to look for fonts. You can look in here. There's a bunch of others. There's like Font Squirrel. There's DaFont. It's been around forever. Lots of free fonts on these places. Font Squirrel will not always have free fonts, but you can sort by free fonts. You want desktop fonts, okay? Fonts that you can download. They will have this little desktop icon right there, this little computer icon. This is a web font. These are mobile fonts. There are differences. So you can go through here and just pick something. Like this is not terrible. Click on that. Oh yeah, specimens. You can test drive it. Be like, what do you want it to say? Tacos, sprinklers, and skateboards. Oh, it's not. It's too big. Let's make it a little smaller here. Yeah, you know, that's okay. It's not terrible. But so, you know, just go through here, pick one. When you're working on these, I want to see that you thought through a few. Okay? You don't need to clean up your working space artboards for me at all. And these are vectors. They're not going to like bloat your file size or anything. Okay, they're going to be really, really efficient. If you do find a bunch, but you do settle on one, what I would recommend is all these ones that you've pulled out here. I'm going to delete that last one. All these ones that you've pulled out here that you're not sure about. Where did my characters go? Type character. Okay. Do I have others? I have a bold. Yeah, it's not really that different. All right. These others that you have, what I would do is probably put them like up here somewhere. Just put them off the artboard for now. So I think what I'm going to do, I haven't really decided yet which one I want to use. I'm kind of leaning towards this one here. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to group them just to keep them, make them easy to move around. I'm going to just put all of these off the artboard for now. Kind of like I did over here, I put that object off the artboard. I left that there, those there. Now with this, I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to zoom in on it and take a look at it here. So this is fine the way it is. I wouldn't use it this way. There's things you could do to kind of like, it's really limited in what you can do, but you could do things like you could warp it. You could bend it a whole bunch. It's gonna kind of tweak it a little bit. Inside the character window, oops, there are options for adjusting like the space between letters, right? Or like how big they are, like, you know, there's all kinds of different things we can play with. Rotating those letters inside their object by themselves. You know, that gives us something that's kind of ridiculous. We could play, that's not really going to do anything right now. Could do letter, or that doesn't matter right now either. That's line height. So if you have multiple lines, then that matters. This is just the space between letters, and then this, okay, this is the distance between them. So if we were to adjust this, all right, auto, oh, it's not going to let us do it. Okay. I think it's because we have the warp tool on there, so let's take warp off. Nope, I don't know. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know why it's not letting us do the space in between. So anyway, just this is all just to say that there's a lot of limitation you have when you're trying to edit this text. You know, there's some things you can do. You can add a stroke onto them. You can adjust that stroke. But again, they're still kind of not super editable. One way to make them more editable for you is to right-click on it and go to Create Outlines. And this will turn it into an object, an actual path object. So now we have a path. We have a bunch of paths. Whereas before, right, we just have type. So now if I come down here, Create Outlines, you see how different that is? Like this is just a type object. Okay, I can go in and edit it, right? But I can't come in now and edit this without just having to manually remove the points. Okay, it's not a type object anymore. Does that make sense to everybody? The differences? Okay. It's very clear. All right. What the nice thing about this though now is let's pick something that's a little easier to look at. All right. So if we come in here now we can start being like, well, you know, we're going to play around with a lot with our direct selection arrow key here. Like, you know, I kind of like this, but maybe I want like this part to extend out more. So I'm going to grab what I can of it, and then maybe I pull it out and pull it up. Let's see. Let's find actually like where this is. Oh, missed one. You can kind of come in here and adjust it. You can play around with it a little bit. Tweak that angle. Maybe you're like, oh, this needs to curve out just a little bit more. Right? You could, so then you could grab like both of these now and find your Pathfinder tool. Like, well, I want these to be one object. So then you use your Pathfinder tool and make them one object. So now they open and they share a stroke and a fill now together. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing you can do with these now is you can actually apply a gradient to them. So you can open this up and be like, okay, well, I want a gradient fill on them, right? So when they're all the same object, you can do stuff like that, which can lead to some really interesting results. Other things you can do is be like, well, maybe I want the O to be a little bit bigger, and I want it to come over here. Maybe I want this part of the T to kind of extend out more. Right, so you grab it like that. Maybe I want just the tip here to kind of come up. Because I don't know, maybe you're just making it look really, really weird. Same here, so Pathfinder, right? I can make those their own. Although I think before we do that, let's make the C a little bit bigger so that it overlaps a little bit more. There's lots of different things. Like maybe this K, like this part of the K could come out. A little bit more. I'm not grabbing exactly the right pieces here. Yeah, that doesn't look right. Here. Let's grab our lasso here. Right, maybe you're making that bigger, which means you can make this part could come up. Oops. All right. Make it its own group. Move it around here. I don't know. Like you can just play around with how things fit in here a little bit better. Maybe like that becomes part of that or something. And that's part of the O. You can move things around and kind of combine a little bit better. We could come in and do some of that continuation stuff. Make it look like the S is going through the O right here. So I need to like break this part here and stick it behind. Essentially, like it needs to come above it or in front of it here, but then go behind it on the other part. So I need to grab like, let's add another point in here and a point in there. Delete that point, and then come in and delete that point, and then actually let's find. What would be the easiest way? Grab that letter, and do this divide, and that's going to make. Maybe don't do the divide. Just put a point where they overlap right there. All right. Problem is, I'm not sure which one I put that on. Oh, I didn't put on any of them. It's hard to know. Come on. There we go. Okay. I should be able to come in now and like delete that one, bring this up a little bit, come back. So it needs to go back just a tiny bit. Sweet spot right there. And then this one. Then we can make like this part, we could actually break this part out and make it its own object and put it behind that, but then that just makes the taco look like it's part of it. So just by simply converting your text objects over to outlines, you can really start messing with them just as shapes. And that's one of the key points into making a word mark or a letter mark. Okay, you can smooth things out, you can adjust. This one's already pretty stylized, so I would want to play around a lot with how it looks. Simpler fonts might be easier to change. If we come up to, if we look at like, you know, like one of these and bring it down. Okay, so we can grab this guy. Let's grab it. Let's ungroup it. Okay, so there's not a whole lot we can do to this at the moment. Okay, so there's some stuff we can do. There's a fill and a stroke. But if we convert this to outlines, again, then we have a lot more control and we can start really playing around with how it looks. So really just with your type objects, convert them to an outline and play around and try to get where you can. There will be things like if I want to round some of these corners, I can grab those corners and I have my rounding options, right? And that will really like start to change how that text looks. Like maybe I want to round just parts of the sides or something. You know, maybe I'm just rounding those parts. Maybe I'm going to take like, I'm not going to get it here. Okay, those are all round. Need to round on the inside here. Surprised I didn't get, there we go. There's a rounding function. Gosh, there's a lot of like overlap right here between. There's a lot of points that were sitting on top of each other right there. You know, come inside and mess with those. Like, there's all kinds of different things you can do. So, play around with it, tweak it quite a bit, make it your own. Think about your colors, but think that it also needs to work in black and white. So. I would not use more than 3 colors. So if you're using 3 colors in your type, those 3 colors should also be present in your object, in your logo icon. Are there any questions about that? It's a really simple method. I'm just playing around more than anything else. No? Okay.